Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through my October wrap-up, and I'll be doing the same thing I did last time, which is summarising all my written reviews into like a small little paragraph, and also showing my booklet infographics here. So that's very exciting. I'm excited to see my little infographics. This month I read 14 books, which is really good. I'm very proud of myself, and I think I will reveal my least favourite and favourite at the end of the video. But with that, let's get right onto it. Okay, the first book is Prelude of Fire by Christine E. Schlues. I can't read that, it's very small, so I can't really see it, but that's the book. It was okay, but I'll get onto the graphics first. As you can see, there's 462 pages read altogether. The total reading time was 6 hours and 57 minutes. The reading speed per hour, or pages per hour, was 65.7, and most pages read in a day was 315. Most minutes read in a day was 159, and I read this from the 1st to the 3rd. Okay, now the review. The book is a captivating tale of a young protagonist navigating her powers and the challenges they bring. The writing is vivid and the author builds tension throughout the narrative. The world building and magic are fantastic, but the plot can be slow paced with very long chapters, and it did have very heavy religious themes, which I just couldn't get into. I didn't like it, and I don't think you'll like it either if you're not religious, because it was very in your face all the time. But I will say that the characters were true to their age, which I did really like. It was a good point that they actually acted their ages instead of being too mature or too immature, so that's a plus. But it's an okay book, you know, too heavily religious for me, but still an okay read. Next up is Every Which Way by Shannon Bright. Okay, so infographic first. 325 pages, total reading time was 5 hours and 18 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 61.1. Most pages read in a day was 156, and most minutes read in a day was 127. I read this from the 5th of October to the 7th of October, and as you can see I rated it 2 stars. Let's just get into the review. I found the book slow paced and boring. The book had some banter between the main characters, but the rest completely fell flat. The main character was annoying, like honestly she was insufferable, and her obsession with her wanting to prove her mum wrong and judging men of one interaction, calling it a superpower, annoying. She hated Beckett and villainised him from the get-go for no reason at all. And I did like Beckett. I like his banter, I like his personality, and although the frat boy thing at the start was annoying, he dropped that really quickly. But as a whole, the book was just not it for me. It was boring, and I couldn't stand the main character at all. She was so insufferable. But, you know, we can't like them all, I guess. But that was really unfortunate because I really liked the sound of it, so very unfortunate, very sad 2-star rating, but there we are. Next up is Sadie, and this is by Courtney Summers, and I read this in one day, 8th. Okay, so 308 pages read. Total reading time was 5 hours and 57 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 51.5. Most pages read in a day was 307, and most minutes read in a day was 357. Now, basically, I can't remember what happened with the infographic, but I did read this in one day, but I think I did it in 2 separate bookly reading sessions, if that makes sense. That's why it doesn't say it's all in one day, basically. So yeah, anyway, let's go to the review. Right. The story follows Sadie, a young girl seeking revenge after her sister's death. The dual narrative structure, alternating between Sadie's journey and the podcast investigation transcripts, creates tension and really immerses you into the mystery surrounding her life. Sadie's character development is impactful, and it has real pain, determination. I love that kind of character that kind of grows throughout the whole story. The themes of loss, trauma and justice are handled with complete sensitivity and depth, which makes the story just stay with you long after you finish reading it, basically. And I really enjoyed reading the podcast transcripts. Those were really interesting, and I really loved the author's ability to intertwine the podcast narrative, and Sadie's personal journey that really put it up there for me. So that was really good. I did really enjoy Sadie. It just wasn't quite 5 stars for me. 4 stars is still good, obviously. It just wasn't a full 5 for me, which is, you know, fair enough. Still a very good rating in my eyes. But I do recommend you to read Sadie. It's really good. And I'm pretty sure one of my best friends, Lauren, is going to be reading it in November. So I'm very excited to see her opinions of it. But yeah, so that's my opinion on Sadie. So let's get on to the next book. Next up is Immortal by Steve Schaffer. And this was my very first arc of the month. And as you can see, my very first 5-star read of the month. So I would like to first say that I got this as an arc through NetGalley and I think Books Go Social, and then the author very kindly sent me the physical book along with a little thank you note, which is very sweet, and it's also signed, which I'm very grateful for. I was not expecting it to be signed or have a little thank you note, so that was very kind of him. But yeah, I'm honestly, this book is incredible. So let's get on to the infographics first. 312 pages read. Total reading time was 4 hours and 47 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 64.6. Most pages read in a day was 206, and most minutes read in a day was 187. And I read this from the 8th to the 9th. Again, it's just incredible. Like, I'm not usually into science fiction, but this was incredible. And it's floppy, so who doesn't love a floppy book? But review. God, I keep coughing today. Immortal is an incredible story that delves into the implications of technology and AI, the world of coding, and whether AI can be sentient or not. Sentient? Sentient? Am I saying that right? I'm probably not, but you know what I mean. The characters are well developed, each grappling with unique struggles. Liv and Lana are best friends. You know, they're best friends, but they have their opposites, like most best friends do. They're very close, but they're very different at the same time. And that's the same for Breck, the AI, and Sam, the other AI. And it's in the synopsis, so this isn't a spoiler. Brent is the one that becomes sentient. So his thought processes are completely different to what Sam's is. Because obviously he's becoming more aware of everything. He's questioning things and he's like thinking more. But Sam is just AI. He's programmed to think certain things, to act certain ways. So he doesn't understand Breck, and Breck doesn't really understand him. Anyway, the book delves into AI and its thought process, leaving you wondering about a lot. Like, I thought about a lot when I finished this book. Like, what happens if AI does ever become like a really big thing, to the point where, like, you know, what is in the book, I can't exactly say, but you know. Liv is my favourite character, and the author expertly weaves unexpected twists and turns throughout the whole narrative. The pacing is spot on, ensuring there's not a single dull moment. I loved it. And the ending of the book was satisfying, unexpected, like, jaw-dropping. I cannot explain to you the amount of physical reactions I had reading this book, but the last one, the ending, nothing could have prepared me for that. Incredible. Absolutely amazing. This honestly has quickly become one of my favourite books of all time. Because honestly, what the hell? I can't even explain it, and I can't go into it without spoiling it. So if you have read this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And was that as jaw-dropping and unexpected to you, or am I just dumb and didn't see it coming? Please let me know. Next up is Never Ever by Sarah Sadie. I'm so bad with names. Right. 288 pages read. Total reading time was 3 hours and 48 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 75.5. Most pages read in a day was 139, and most minutes read in a day was 80. 3 stars, as you can see. Read this from the 10th to the 11th of October. Again, it was an alright read, like, pretty average, but you'll see why when I get into the review a bit more. This was an intriguing read that blends mystery and fantasy with a captivating premise that immerses you into a world of intertwined secrets and truths. And obviously, quickly, before I forgot to mention before, it's like a Peter Pan retelling. A little bit. It's not completely, but it's a little bit of a retelling. The characters are well developed with unique background stories, and they have which add depth and narrative and all that kind of jazz to the story. The plot was engaging in some parts, but for the most part, nothing happened. It was basically a whole big build-up to the end, to the second book, sorry. Literally nothing happened in the first book. It was just a whole big massive suspense to the second book. There was a little bit of a plot twist at the end, but other than that, it was basically this just massive build-up to book 2. I feel like they could have been a bit more into it, but you know, there we are. So, you know, it was alright, but could have been better in my opinion. But let's get to book 2, okay? Next up is The Lost Kids by Sarah Sadie. I'm saying that wrong, I think, but whatever. Okay, 230 pages read. Total reading time was 4 hours and 19 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 52.9. Most pages read in a day was 229, and most minutes read in a day was 259. 14th of October, I read it in one day, and 4 stars. It was better. I will give it that. It was better than the last one because it had more into it. It's more suspenseful, had more tense scenes. But you know, I'll get more into it now. The Lost Kid is a captivating read that delves into a group of kids/teens under the age of 17 and under, basically, trying to fight to reclaim their island back. It's filled with unexpected twists and has a very, very strong plot this time. And some parts did feel a bit slow and it was lacking in action. The characters, especially Wiley, were well developed and engaging. But despite these flaws, it was really, really good and definitely offers more depth compared to Never Ever. And I really did enjoy this one more than the last one. It had more into it. There was more like revelations. There was more twists, which I really like in a book. So it was definitely better than Never Ever. But it was still lacking in some places, which is why it only got 4 stars. Next up is Harvest Day, which is the first book of the Sovereign Code series. And this is a good book. It's a dystopian series, and I did really like it. But let's go into the infographic. 312 pages read. Total reading time was 5 hours and 48 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 53.6. Most pages read in a day was 153, and most minutes read in a day was 173. 5 stars, as you can see. 14th to the 18th of October is when I read it. And let's get into the review. This book is by Tamar Sloan and Heidi Catherine. Let's get on to the review. This book is captivating from start to finish with vivid imagery and deep characters. The world is created by both authors and it's familiar and dystopian. It really draws you into the lives of the characters, and each character also has their own depth and opinions, especially those in different zones with varying living conditions. So we have the green zone, which live in like proper housing, have proper plumbing, have food and water and all that, and the dead zone where they just have scraps of food. They barely have any little huts. They have like little sleeping mats, some water. They're basically vastly different. The plot is filled with unexpected twists, which really does keep you guessing until the end, and the end was really, really good and jaw-dropping. The writing style really balances descriptive writing and realistic dialogue with a perfect pacing and moments of tension that really enhance the whole experience of reading this book. It is so good. So good. I really, really enjoyed it. Just the plot of like there being super bees, which are very deadly to the vulnerables. And like the vulnerables have to move to the dead zone because they're separated by this big net. And the immunes go to the green zone. which is just so interesting. I love a dystopian so much, but the series as a whole was okay, and you'll see why in the very last book. So I'm giving you a bit of a sneak peek. The last book kind of ruined it, but I'm skipping ahead, so let's get on to book 2. Okay, book 2, Hive Mind, and this was a 5-star read, as you can see. 294 pages read, total reading time was 5 hours and 10 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 56.4. Most pages read in a day was 292, and most minutes read in a day was 310. I read this from the 18th to the 18th, so one day I was completely hooked on this, honestly. So good. Right, review. The second book in the Sovereign Code series is a captivating journey of self-discovery and connection. The well-developed characters such as Echo and River face unique struggles and triumphs. The writing style is engaging and emotionally rich, with vivid imagery that keeps the narrative flowing smoothly. I found myself invested in the characters' journeys, feeling a range of emotions from shock to happiness. It's a story that keeps you hooked and eager to turn the page to see what happens next. This was really, really good. It was full of a lot more tense and suspense moments, a lot more shocking, like, physical reaction kind of things. It is really, really good. And it was a good second book to the series, basically. So I really enjoyed that. But let's get on to the third book. The third book in the Sovereign Code series is Queen Hunt, and this was 286 pages. Total reading time was 4 hours and 35 minutes. Pages read in an hour, I read that wrong. So reading speed in pages per hour, was 61.9. Most pages read in a day was 169, and most minutes read in a day was 166. This was 3 stars, and I read this from the 19th to 20th. Now this was okay, and I'll get into it more in my little summary, but this was a captivating, immersing read, which is full of like intrigue and power dynamics. The complex characters and rich narrative create a compelling story. I loved Echo and River again, as always, but another character called Chase, which is Echo's childhood best friend, he started to really annoy me. He was really unsympathetic to everything, and he just felt so rude and mean, and I didn't like him in this book at all. The shocking twists kept me engaged with unexpected events and surprising outcomes. The pacing is definitely slower in this book, and that kind of put me off a little bit. But there were moments of like tension and anticipation, but the slow pacing was just a bit average for me, considering the first 2 books was really good pacing. For the third to suddenly switch up and be slower was just a bit like, oh, why is this slower? Why is it slowing down? I need more action. I need more, like, more suspense, more tension, more of it, not just little bits and slow pacing, But yeah, so let's get on to the 4th book. The 4th book in the Sovereign Code series is Venom Rising, and as you can see, this was 5 stars. 272 pages read. Total reading time is 5 hours and 10 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 52.2. Most pages read in a day was 194, and most minutes read in a day was 223. I read this from the 21st to the 22nd. Right, this one was much better. The pacing was completely back to normal. So I'll get to the review. The 4th book in the Sovereign Code series was incredibly engaging with its blend of dystopian, action, romance, and suspense. If you can hear, that's my cat being annoying, just ignore him. The detailed, wild and immersive settings allowed for a familiar yet futuristic escape. And as always, I loved Echo and River. They're always going to be my 2 favourite. And again, Chase was still annoying and just unsympathetic and mean. And this time, Flora, which is River's sister, she was a bit I was a bit shifty, you're suspicious, But there we are. The emotional journeys of the likeable characters, so Echo, River and a few others, were relatable, which kept me on edge, and the pacing, as I said, was completely back to normal, which I was so happy about. There he is, by the way. This is the little monkey that you could hear earlier, Loki. But yeah, the pacing was completely back to normal, which I absolutely loved. I still liked all the characters I liked, and then Chase and Flora were just a bit on the sidelines, like, I don't like either of you at the moment. You can go over there and stay over there. Which brings us to the last book of the Sovereign Code. The last book in the Sovereign Code series is Sting Wars, and as you can see, this is a 3-star read, and I'll get to that in a minute. 290 pages read. Total reading time was 4 hours and 32 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 63.3. Most pages read in a day was 105, and most minutes read in a day was 112. I read this from the 24th to 25th of October. Now, let me get into the summary first, and then I will add more to it. The last book in the Sovereign Code disappointed me due to an overused trope that ruined the story and made it feel like a waste of time after reading the previous books. If you know me, you know exactly what that trope is. I don't want to spoil it, but it's something I absolutely hate. Like, I despise this trope with every fibre of my being. And if I had known that that trope was going to be in the last book of this series, I wouldn't have even picked the series up, basically. But anyway, despite this, the story has a good build-up to a suspenseful but very short war with a satisfying ending. The writing style is engaging, with highlights in character development and themes of love, loss and resilience. And as I said before, the constant mention of this trope, like, I can't really explain it without spoiling, but the trope happened and they continuously kept mentioning it as if you would forget that it happened. Like, we know, okay, we know from the first time, we don't need to keep saying it and saying it and saying it. It's annoying and overused and cliche, and it just ruined the whole experience for me. I found myself just rolling my eyes. I started to skim the bits that mentioned that specific trope because I just couldn't care less. And I begrudgingly read the epilogues because I just wanted to see what happened. And it was just a bit meh, you know? Another book series that could have been absolutely perfect, ruined by that trope, basically. But I can't say much more. If you've read the series, you'll probably guess the trope, I'm assuming. But I can't say much about spoiling, so yeah. The next book I read was Hexed by Emily McIntyre, which I'm so happy I got. This was an arc, and I cannot tell you how happy this made me. I absolutely loved the Never After series. I read all the books last year, and to get an arc of her last book, Hexed, was just incredible for me. I was ecstatic when I got the email. Like, I honestly can't believe I was accepted for it. But anyway, as you can see, 5 stars. 624 pages read. Total reading time was 9 hours and 25 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 65.5. Most pages read in a day was 243, and most minutes read in a day was 226. I read this from the 25th to the 28th. I loved it, okay? I loved it, so let's get on to the review. Hexed is an amazing book that hooks you from the start with its captivating storytelling of violence, intrigue, mafia, and forbidden romance. The vivid atmosphere immerses you into the character's world with well-developed characters like the strong Vanessa and the alluring Enzo. The story's pacing is honestly, it's perfect. Perfect. Not too fast, not too slow, never a dull moment, just perfection. It perfectly balances action, romance, suspense, unexpected twists and turns. It's full of revelations, like, all of it keeping you completely and utterly engaged. The writing style is immersive, making it easy to get lost in the story for hours on end. You'll even forget you're reading, basically. That's how, like, engrossed you are into the story. Honestly, it's such a good book, and I am sad to see that it's the last book of the Never After series. Sad to see it ending, but I am very, very, very grateful that I got to have the arc of the last book. And honestly, the Never After series is absolutely incredible. So if you haven't read any of them, definitely do it. I don't know if this is the correct order, but it's Hooked, Scarred, Wretched, Twisted, Crossed, Hexed. I think that's the order. Maybe Twisted and Wretched might have to be switched, but I'm pretty sure that's the order. Not that there is technically a specific order, but I'm talking about like the release date order. But anyway, yeah, Hexed was so good. Like, I loved it. Honestly, absolutely incredible. The next book is Prohibited, which is by Madeline Thorne, and this was sent to me by the author as an ARC read. I think it's an ARC read anyway. Yeah, I think so. I can't remember if it's an ARC or she just sent it to me. Either or both, whichever. Anyway, 4-star read, as you can see. 485 pages read. Total reading time was 8 hours and 48 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 54.7. Most pages read in a day was 301, and most minutes read in a day was 307. And I read this on the 28th to the 29th. This was good. It was good. There were just parts of it that was a bit, I want to say slow, and just some bits that were just a bit meh. Just a bit, I can't explain it without giving it away. It's really annoying. Let me just read my little summary and then I'll try to add to it to try and speak about how I'm trying to phrase it. Okay. The book explores enemies to lovers and why choose tropes with love, loss, rebellion and a strong female lead character, which I love. Okay. It's a good dark romance with multi-dimensional characters, each with their own struggles and desires. The relationships portrayed have emotional depth, creating complexity and keeping me, the reader, invested. I really love seeing how Evie interacted with the guys, Ryan, Alex and Lindsay differently. Like, she had very different kind of relationships with each one, because they're very different men and they do very different things. So she was, you know, interacting with them differently, which was good. The pacing was very uneven at times. It took me a while to get into it, and then it was good, and then in the middle it dropped. And then it kind of picked up a little bit, and then it dropped, and then it picked up a little bit. You know, it's very, very uneven. But it was full of, like, vivid descriptions and touching dialogue, which did make it a little bit better when there was tenser scenes. But I feel like the pacing could have been a bit more even. Or it could have just been a bit less up and down, you know. It was good, and there's obviously smut. I forgot to mention that in Hexed. That is smut too. But you probably know that. Anyway, Prohibited. It did have smut, and it's a wide choose, so it's like sort of like a reverse harem, you know, kind of smutty book. It's really good, to be fair. I really liked it, but as I said, the pacing that's what deducted a star for me. It was too uneven, and it was just a bit slow for me. And the last book I read was If the Crown Fits by, I'm really going to butcher this, Leanne Guillaume. I'm probably really butchering that, but here we are. This was also an ARC that I got sent by NetGalley and Joff Books. I think I'm saying that right. Joffe, whichever. 4-star read, as you can see. 288 pages read. Total reading time was 5 hours and 27 minutes. Reading speed in pages per hour was 52.3. Most pages read in a day was 190, and most minutes read in a day was 218. And I read this on the 30th and finished it on the 31st. Okay, so I'll get to my review first, and then I'll just try to describe more why it was 4 stars instead of 5. The book seamlessly combines romance and fantasy, which kept me hooked from start to finish. The plot is engaging, with well-crafted characters like Lara and Kai. The world-building immerses you into a realm of intrigue and adventure, showing the stark contrast between royals and how they live and the impoverished, where they basically have to fight. Well, not all of them, but a kind of groups of different bandits have to, like, fight to survive, stealing food, money, etc. And this is full of descriptive writing style, which paints vivid settings and character dynamics. I did predict the plot twist at the end very early on. That's why it's 4 stars, because it's really predictable. Like, something happened, I think it was like start of the middle. Something happened and I was like, this is what's going to happen. And then at the very end, that was what was revealed. And it's like, yeah, I knew it. It was just too predictable for me. But I am still going to read the next 2 books of the trilogy when they come out, because I still want to know what happens. I just think it could have been less predictable, because, you know, it's just a bit, it's too obvious. It could have been made less obvious somehow. I don't know how, but it could have just been made a little bit less obvious. Okay, so I will now reveal my favourite and least favourite of the month. So, my least favourite was Every Which Way. I did not like that book at all. Like, it was just the main character. If she was different, it probably would have been a higher rating, but she was so insufferable, so, you know, here we are. And my absolute favourite was Hext. I absolutely loved Hext. It was so incredible, and I am so grateful to Emily and her team for sending me this arc. Honestly, when it comes out, you should read it because it's incredible. I loved it. But yeah, those are my least favourite and favourite of the month, yeah. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please like, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to get notified when I post, and I'll see you in the next video.